Welcome or welcome back to Lift You Up Inspiring Health Stories. I'm your host, Tamika Bickham. I'm the founder and chief storyteller of TB Media Group. But for the purpose of this podcast, I am your health and happiness matchmaker. Now, before I introduce you to today's guest, you know what I'm going to ask you to do? Hit subscribe right there on YouTube, turn on those notifications, and connect with me on LinkedIn because I'd love to stay connected with you. Now, today we are talking about fidgeting. We are talking about nervous or anxious energy and releasing that. And it could all be actually very simple. Michael Malkin talks about his journey from working for Apple to now starting a very growing business called Calm Strips. It was because he had his own anxious energy and he got it out by putting tape around his finger. Well, that tape evolved into quite the budding business. Our physical, mental, and emotional health is not just a want, it is a need for happy lives and prosperous businesses. Lift You Up is the podcast where we share inspiring health stories from business owners who are fulfilling their purpose to live their healthiest lives and helping you do the same. From former TV reporter to marketing entrepreneur and content creator, I care about sharing stories that matter and stories that connect us. I'm your host, Tamika Bickham, your health and wellness matchmaker. Well, today I am so excited to meet virtually all the way from an office in Virginia. We have Michael Malkin and Luce Fuller with Calm Strips. Hey there.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for being here. I'm so excited. Well, I have to be honest. I have never purchased Calm Strips. I have not touched Calm Strips. I don't know about Calm Strips, but I've obviously checked out your website. I want to know more about you two individually. But before we dive into that, tell everybody what Calm Strips is.
Yeah. So Calm Strips are, to give you the marketing pitch, they're first of their kind, textured sensory adhesive. So I have some on my phone here. But they're what they're designed for is, I'm kind of a nervous, kind of fidgety person. And I found that a lot of the stuff that's out there on the market it's like kind of clunky and cumbersome. It's tough to carry around. It's not necessarily always appropriate to use out there in public. I have this actually one that I got from, it's another one that's on Amazon. It's like a little pea pod and you kind of squeeze the pea. But like, I couldn't take this out at like the Apple store where I used to work and like, mess around with it because I'd be working with customers and stuff. So this is kind of a cool, kind of discreet way. They have a textured surface on them. So you can kind of scratch at them or kind of touch at them.
Give them a good scratch.
Yeah, or kind of pick at them. And they're great for people who are looking for something to help calm themselves down. Tactile feedback is a really good way to do that, but have it be kind of discreet. And if people don't know, they think you just got some pretty stickers on your phone.
It sounds like there's a personal connection here to why you started Calm Strips because it sounds really cool. I would have no idea, me personally, about like you said, the tactile feedback, the science behind it, or why it works. So how did you even stumble upon or learn about this science?
When I used to work at the Apple store, it was really busy. Like we get really busy, especially on the weekends. I don't know if you've ever been to a store, but it gets, especially on the weekends, well, pre-pandemic, I guess, it would get like really like shoulder to shoulder in that store. We were in a smaller store in Virginia here. We just get super busy. And for me, that would really kind of like trigger my anxiety, like just being around so many people, I would get kind of really amped up. And so what I found was I actually started wrapping blue carpenter's tape around my finger. And I found just kind of having that texture to kind of rub my finger against, it kind of helped to kind of like calm me down and kind of dispel that kind of energy. Like we call it like restless energy, like that kind of restless energy that you have needs to go somewhere. And so for me, it would kind of go to my hands. And so I found that was really helpful. The downside to it is you kind of look silly with blue tape on your fingers are sticky after. And so it's kind of, it's like finding something that kind of filled that need. And we made it better. I mean, it's not just blue tape on a phone. Like we have a really great, like kind of a choice of different textured finishes. It's a reusable adhesive, so you can stick it anywhere, restick it, do whatever you want to do. So we've done a lot to improve on that idea, but kind of as my own personal need for something like this, it kind of is what inspired the product.
I feel like there's a lot of openness, a lot more conversation as of recently around depression, around anxiety, around these kind of mental health topics, especially since the start of the pandemic, right, where people have really had to kind of face some of those things. But I know that they present differently in every individual, right? So everyone deals with anxiety differently. Like, how do you know if something like this is right for you? You mentioned like that nervous kind of energy. Maybe explain a little bit for you what that feels like and how you knew something like this would, be right for you and who it's right for.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when I first started the business, I think I had like one perception of like who this was for. And I think when people start a business, they always have the same perception. It's like for people like me, like, it's gotta be for like, young professional people who work in a retail store. Maybe not that specific, but kind of that general audience. And I think like we kind of developed the product, put it out on the market. And I think that what we found really quickly was that like my perception of who was really going to want a product like this and who actually really wants a product like this are really, really different. And so we do have a market of people who are kind of like myself, professionals in retail who need kind of something like this as an outlet. But I think the two biggest markets that we've really found are education. We're in over 3,000 schools now all over the country.
Wow.
We work with schools from New York to Alaska because for kids, this is a really great solution because it's discrete. So you can put them on, like a teacher can put it on the desk. And again, instead of like my little Peapod thing, which can be kind of a toy or different, like a fidget spinner or a cube, which can be a distraction, this is a way to kind of funnel that energy and it's a little bit more discreet and quieter and less distracting than a lot of stuff out there. So we've seen that as a huge, and we just finished up kind of back to school season. And so that's been a really popular market.
We are doing a lot of work with foundations that work with BFRBs, which are body focused repetitive behaviors, hair pulling, skin rubbing, skin picking, cheek biting, nail biting. Hi, I have no nails because I've bitten them all off, right? So these are things that are done almost compulsively, not to harm, but just because you feel the need to, you have to, right? So we are working with two large foundations that deal with BFRBs, and it's so incredibly nice to be able to talk about mental health in such a positive way and, reach an audience that we never expected. I don't know that I really knew anything about BFRBs prior to working with Calm Strips.
And tell me what that stands for again, BFRB?
Sure. Body focused repetitive behaviors.
Got it. Body focused repetitive behaviors. And
Right.
and you mentioned those are foundations.
So the foundations that we're working with are the TLC Foundation
Okay.
and the Picking Me Foundation, but they both deal with body focused repetitive behaviors. How to funnel that energy to something less harmful, even though the intent is not harm when you're doing these behaviors, to funnel that energy into something a little bit less harmful.
And do you know, I mean, this is actually the first time I've heard that term, body focused repetitive behaviors, how many people this impacts?
So I am not an expert. The numbers are clinician given, but that's only the people that are able to get that diagnosis. It's upwards of about 44% of people have some sort of body focused repetitive behavior. And again, this is nail biting, cheek chewing, but it's really not going to be a diagnosis if it's not negatively impacting your life, right?
Right.
But even if it's not negatively impacting your life, like again, I bite my nails, but I am not in a bad way because of it. It just is really annoying and kind of gross sometimes. But like right now, my phone's over there, so I don't have my Calm Strips with me. So I'm like rubbing my cuticle back. So it's something that if I had my phone, which I will get in just a second, I would be rubbing on that instead. So I wouldn't be doing damage to myself.
It's kind of a way to kind of ground yourself and kind of refocus that energy somewhere else, somewhere a bit more
Healthy. Yeah.
Now, are body-focused repetitive behaviors typically associated with like anxiety?
So yeah, it definitely can, but it's not necessarily like part and parcel. It's not necessarily if you have one, you have the other.
Right.
They can be independent of each other. I would never say that calm strips are a cure for anxiety, but I looked at it as a way to like help in that area, to help with like fidgeting and restless energy and focus and things like that. I think that, you know, they always say like you kind of find your people. Like, so we kind of put this out there and we kind of found these different pockets of people who I think found this a helpful tool. So it's kind of like we put this kind of tool out there into the world, and people are saying, "Oh, I'm using it for that. Oh, I'm using it for this."
Yeah, and you mentioned that this wasn't necessarily the intention. Is it ever really when it comes to entrepreneurship, right? So I want to understand more about your path, because it sounds like initially this was born out of a need that you filled for yourself. But prior to that, you mentioned Apple 5 years. To give me your backstory before starting Calm Strips.
Okay. So he started, but either way. So I worked in retail. I'm a mom. I am married. I have a huge family. We have 5 children, and my husband works at a shipyard around here. At the time, prior to working here, I was a stay-at-home mom for about a year because I had worked at Apple for 5 years doing literally almost seemingly every job in the store at one point. And then I kind of got burnt out. I wanted to be home with my babies. And then I got a phone call from Michael, and he told me what he was doing. And I was like, oh, okay. And
because you two had worked together.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. And he asked me if I would come help. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Sure. And it was just 3 days. He just had a couple orders. They needed to get packed up. And then prior to me even coming out to help for those 3 days, he said, so full-time was going to look like this. And I was like, oh, okay, let's do this. And so I was just excited because I had seen him do other things and start other things. And the passion that he has for these ideas are always, it's infectious in a good way. So I wanted to work with him again. And I just thought this would be a great opportunity to help.
Yeah. And I think, when I started this, like, it was literally like me and my wife, packing orders on the couch when we first started. It wasn't like, it was not my intent to be like, I was like, this will be a cool little sideline thing while I'm still working at Apple. And then it was just kind of, took off. I think we saw a lot of like word of mouth and people telling people about it, like when we first started. And that was like, we went really quickly from like 5 or 10 orders a day to like 100 orders a day. And then so 3 months later, when I needed help, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna reach out to Luce, because number one, we worked together for 5 years and we had a really great rapport.
You were side hustling that, and then you were like, whoa, I need help. And then it grew, and now it is what Calm Strips is today.
Yeah, so I mean, we're in a beautiful little corner office here, as you said, in Virginia, and we do all of our like packing and shipping out of here, and we're really proud. I mean, we've only been in business for maybe a year and a half, yep. And I mean, we have over 100,000 satisfied customers. Like I mentioned earlier, we're like in over 3,000 schools, so it's been beyond like what I think our kind of wildest dreams were.
We'd gotten to a point where we could not keep up. So we were getting the strips, we were getting the envelopes, we were getting everything separate and packing like the little envelopes, then packing the orders. And we were kind of barely waiting, or treading water rather. And so we we rented out his dentist's office for a weekend, and we invited everybody that we knew that could help. And so we had what we call our big packing party, and it was literally just enough for that whole weekend's worth of work to get us back up to zero, right? To get us back to where we were doing orders one day at a time rather. We weren't behind anymore. It was really fun. We've since come up with processes that we are, never in that boat again, which is lovely. But now we're doing 10 times the orders, and it has just grown like hand over fist since then.
It's so interesting to me because, when I saw comm strips and I read about you guys, I was like, this is a very simple idea.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very simple product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was very interested to hear how, you made this work and hearing you say how many orders, like, what do you attribute that success to? Because you had just mentioned this to me, like, I might have been one of those friends on Facebook, like, I don't get it, like, I might,
Well, I think first I have to thank Guy Levy, who's my dentist, for letting me use his office. Without him, I don't think we would have made it. But I've done a lot of stuff like Lucy said. Like, I have an entrepreneurial spirit. I've done a lot of stuff that hasn't worked. Like, I wrote my own comic book and like did all this kind of stuff. I did a mail order cookie business. Yep. So I've always kind of been one of those guys who's like, like, what the heck's Michael got going on now? Like, because I've always kind of had that spirit of it. But I think, we kind of, number one, I think it was born out of a real need. And I think I think in this case, because so much of the stuff out there in this space is really, I don't want to say complicated, but it's kind of clunky. It's kind of, so the simplicity of this, I think, kind of worked in its favor. And then I think we try and like, it's like we called it comm strips. And so we tried to like put a little bit of that whole idea of like comm into like every piece of the process. It's like we have the textured thing that you can like scratch or pick or rub at. Then, I kind of showed it earlier, but we have like different designs. Like this one's kind of inspired by like the phases of the moon, and this one's by like Antelope Canyon. And so, we have these designs that are kind of inspired by like calming scenes or calming experiences that people have. And then like, I'm gonna reach over here for a second. Yeah. We have these little, these cute little envelopes that we custom print. That they come in that has like an inspirational quote that's kind of related to the comm strips that come inside of it. So I think we kind of just had this whole thing. I think especially like we launched in like middle of April of 2020. And I think that in that moment where it was kind of,
oh, wow.
I know that I was like, I got everything together. We had this stuff. I got my initial order of comm strips I'd ordered from our manufacturing partner and all that stuff. And I was like, we're going to wait because like this pandemic is going on and like, this is not the right time to launch anything. Like we're just going to hold off. And I was like, you know what, we got everything together. Like, let's just go. And I would never say that, anything about this pandemic is a positive. I do think in some ways, because of the kind of general anxiety that's been out there in the world over the last year, I think people have been looking for something like this. I think it's because like the packaging and some of this of it, like it makes a nice gift you can give someone if you're like thinking about them and like.
I don't think there's anything wrong with saying there's a silver lining.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, and this may sound hubris, and I do not want it to come across like that, but I think another part of why we've been successful is because the people that we have on staff care deeply about our customers. They are not just people buying stuff from us, right? They are people that want relief. They are people that are seeking something, and we want to give it to them. We want to help them. We care deeply about customer service, and we care deeply about helping people. So Michael and I also do a Instagram live, and we help and I talk to, we're doing talks about BFRBs, but like today I did one about period anxiety. Michael was not on that one. That's okay. But, we want to just kind of destigmatize this, and we want to help people in any way we can, even if they're not purchasing from us, if they're just coming on and, learning a little bit more about how to openly talk about their anxiety or, their what they're living with, please let us help you.
And we're kind of also committed to kind of staying small if we can. I mean, our team right now is 5. And so we want to kind of keep it like when you send us an email or call us on the phone, like you're going to get someone who you've seen on like listened to on a podcast or like seen on a video that we've done on Instagram, So I think, maybe one day that won't be the case anymore. But I think for right now, we're kind of trying to kind of, like Lucy said, like keep it small, tight knit so that like we build that kind of relationship with our customers and with the people out there.
Yeah. And I want to ask, because I know you mentioned there's a real need. That's why, people are buying this. So what would you say that need is? I may have asked you that, but I just kind of want to circle back on that. Like, what is that need? Because I know you said, hey, we're not going to claim that this is going to cure or alleviate anxiety or anything, like that. But what is that need that you're feeling?
Apple, when I worked there, that was my dream job. Like that's what I like when I was a kid. This sounds stupid, but I was like, I want to work for Apple. Like that's what I wanted to do. Like I'm a fanboy. Like you can't kind of see if you look like up. I'm gonna tilt my camera up a little bit, but like right below the clock, that's actually like a deconstructed iPhone 4 with all the components taken apart. Like I'm a geek. Like that's kind of stuff that I go in for. And like I was at my dream job, like doing like, and I wasn't happy doing that. I had kind of reached a point where I was like looking for kind of next thing. And like, so for me, like,
and that's always a hard time too, when you feel like you get to the dream job and then you're not happy in the dream job.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like, that's difficult.
What's going on?
What's going on? But so for me, it was like comm strips. When I started it, it was like I said, like it kind of started as like this little thing, but like as soon as I saw that it was kind of going, I was like, cool, this is gonna be like my next, like I'm gonna work on this, I'm gonna put everything I've got into it. And I remember my wife, who is amazing, like I was like, I want to leave Apple and I want to pursue this full time. And we were not at a stage where that was a good idea. And she was like, nope, go for it. I know, I trust you. So it's kind of like a hopeful thing for me. And so when I think about like comm strips for people, I think it's like smaller scale. I like to think of it as just like it's like what the things we talked about, like it's that one line thing we have on our website, it's something to help reduce fidgeting, increase focus, and regulate restless energy. But I also think like part of the reason like the designs, we do the designs on them, it would cost us the same, honestly, to do a design or not do a design, like for example. But I think part of that is like for it to be kind of like a beacon or like something like that you have on you that you're like, this is kind of my little bit of calm in like a crazy world, I guess. Like, and I know that's a silly thing, but it's like Nike sells Victory and they sell tennis shoes. So I mean, I guess it's like you gotta think about what are our values. And I think like what we want to be for people is that kind of little bit of calm that you can kind of take with you everywhere.
You said comm strips for people, and my brain immediately goes, ooh, comm strips for dogs.
What's next? That's not on the product roadmap.
Maybe not yours.
Is there anything else on the product roadmap now that you bring it up?
Yeah. So we're always working on stuff. Like we actually used to have just one texture, and now we have two textures because people wanted. We had one called Soft Sand, and people were like, we want something even more textured. So we launched this one called River Rocks recently that people really are digging.
We do have carry tags.
Oh, Lucy, tell the story of carry tags.
Oh yeah. So speaking of entrepreneurs, it's still there. Make jewelry out of antique silverware and just funky stuff. I also made key tags that I would hand stamp. And so I was like, what if we just had it, because we had so many customers. And again, this goes to customer service. We really want to know what people need. So they kept emailing us about like, oh, can you make it into a bracelet? Can I have it on a necklace? And we were like, well, I mean, there are ways to do it, but how to do it effectively. So we came up with the carry tag. This is a brass one.
This is for the round ones.
Yep. We do them just in aluminum. We don't have brass. That was one of a kind.
Sorry.
It's okay. So now people can take them with them everywhere, and you don't even have to have it on the keychain. My dad has one in his pocket because we used to make fun of him for the dad jingle. Like he would jingle the pocket change when he was like talking on the phone or whatever. And he's like, it is kind of distracting. So he now has a comm strip, and he is not the guy to say that he needs a fidget strip, right? Or anything like that.
Right.
So right now they kind of come in strips like this or circles. So because we had a ton of people ask for circles, so we came out with circles, but we're working on ones that are actually kind of like shapes that you can like trace. So like a spiral or like a maze and stuff like that. So coming soon, probably early next year. We're kind of working on figuring out manufacturing on those, but
And getting through holiday, let's be really honest.
Right. And you
but
know what?
there's more stuff coming, and just in terms of textured adhesive type stuff. But then we have some ideas that are even a little bit outside of that, but we'll save that for maybe next time if you want to have us back on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad that, you know, hey, our audience heard it here first, right?
That's right.
That's right.
I'm like interested. I'm thinking about, because you know, when you're talking, I was like, okay, so those moments when, you know, like you start feeling the stress piling. So I've been getting better at like, okay, like the deep breaths. Like I've never been good. Like sometimes it'll just start like, you know, but maybe I was in my mind like, hey, maybe that's a moment at which I would enjoy a calm strip.
Yeah, and we've had customers tell us, because like some people, like they want to get into like meditation or mindfulness or something like that, and they just have trouble kind of sitting still. I know that issue. So like calm strips can be, you know, something just like in that moment where if you just want to sit down and you have trouble kind of staying still, it can kind of help as like an aid in that regard as well.
Yeah, you know, like the 4-count breath, like breathe in for the count of 4, hold it. So you can do that with your calm strip. Obviously the calm strip's not going to do your breathing, but you know, as you trace your finger up the calm strip, take that as a 4 count, hold it for 4 as you go down, and then do it again to go up and breathe out. So, I mean, it's a tool. And then the next time you look at it, you're like, let me just calm down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what I want to ask is, because I like to ask about like a health tip or something that has helped you in your health and wellness journey. And that could really be anything.
One that is really, I notice a huge difference between when I'm doing, when I'm not, is taking that time for like mindfulness and like meditation. Like there's 100 apps out there, and I use one called Balance, but there's the Calm app, and LeBron James uses the Calm app and he does commercials for it. So you know it's good. No, so, but I mean, there's
so random.
So random, but I mean,
shout out to LeBron.
All right, but no, so it's one of those things where like sometimes just taking, like, I think we're so kind of on the go all the time now as a culture, like, and I know for me it's like, you know, between my phone and like the computer, like I'm on the screen all the time,
it's
but like
nonstop.
like taking that 10 minutes, like even 10 or 15 minutes, even if you don't use an app and you just kind of sit down kind of quietly and kind of reflect, that's a big one for me. And then the other thing that I started doing just fairly recently, like within the last like 6 to 9 months, is I started keeping a journal. And it's a digital, because I'm not good with pen and paper, but it's I use an app called Day One, which it'll give you a prompt every day, like, hey, tell me something great that happened in your day, or what, you know, like, and kind of just, I think the big thing to me, like that leads to me feeling healthy, is just taking time to reflect. Like at the end of the day, like really think about the day, like what happened, capture it, you know, at the end of the week, think about that week. And I find when I do that, I can kind of get out of that kind of autopilot that we can sometimes go on, and that kind of day-to-day trenches of adult existence.
That's so nice.
David Foster Wallace said it. I'm sorry, I'm just ripping him off. Go ahead.
No, I love that. Lucy?
So 3 come to mind, and they're all very small. Okay. First one is a lot like Michael. I spend a lot of time, not a lot, let's be real, I could always spend more time doing this. Deep breathing. My 10-year-old and I do it a lot to get him to sleep. He is an anxious boy, and that's great. Not really, but at nighttime it really shows up. So we do a lot of deep breathing and body scans to kind of like calm him down one by one. Sleep hygiene for me, I have the worst sleeping schedule. It is so bad. I spend a lot of time with, like, one of my kids likes horror movies, and I do too. So we'll stay up super late watching horror movies. And then the next day, like, we have to get up on a Saturday and like go to baseball practice or do X, Y, or Z. And I'm just like, oh, I'm terrible at this. So I've been really concentrating on better sleep hygiene. And then the last one is something that I try to do with my kids. It is a heart-to-heart hug, one up, one down. Everybody puts one arm up, one arm down, and you go around, because then your hearts are aligned. So a good, deep, like a long hug. I only give up when they do. Thanks.
That's nice. I bet it makes you feel really connected too, and like
it does.
It releases all the good endorphins and.
bite their ears because they're so little and cute. It's the onion ring of the human body, you know?
Well, whatever it is, it's working because you guys just seem honestly so happy and at peace and, positive. It's really refreshing and nice to see, especially knowing, hey, you both have your families and you mentioned 5 kids and like all of these things that can really, stress us out or cause that anxiety. So tell everyone how they can find you, learn more about you, connect with you, all the things.
Yep. If you go to Instagram, you can find us at Calm Strips. A Friday at 3:00, we do a live, and then you can also find us at calmstrips.com.
Recently, you can now get Calm Strips on Amazon. So if you're
awesome.
An Amazon, we just did this like in the last week or so. So because we had a lot of people be like, I love Calm Strips, I want to order them. I know you have free shipping, but Prime, I gotta get my Prime. So we put a small selection on Amazon too. And then if you want to email us, I'm Michael at calmstrips.net, and she's Lucy.
I'm Lucy, which is LUCE at calmstrips.net. And then also, if you just want to shout out to the whole Calmstrip crew, it's care at calmstrips.net.
Perfect. We'll make sure to link to all of that below in the show notes so everyone can find you nice and easy. This has been great. Is there anything else that you wanted to add that I didn't ask you?
I just had one last thing. Number one, thank you so much for having us on. It means an awful lot to us. Lucy and I, a lot of times, are kind of the public face of Calm Strips, but we have other folks on our team who work incredibly hard. Mike, who's our operations manager, Susie, who's our customer service ninja, and Megan, who actually just recently started with us, and Josh. I don't want to forget my friend Josh, who comes in and helps pack orders and stuff like that. So just thank you to all those folks working hard behind the scenes to get people out there their Calm Strips.
Absolutely. It takes a village,
It sure does.
It does.
And thank you for being here. Honestly, it was, we were talking about this earlier, although those who are watching this at the time of this airing won't know, but this is the final interview of a long day, and honestly, the best way I could have ended it.
Hey! So. One up, one down. Let's go. Bring it
on.
One up, one down. Thank you so much. I'm so interested in checking out Calm Strips, and you probably are too. Sometimes it's the simplest things that just make the most sense. So make sure you go below in the show notes, find their information, check them out. Go ahead, place that order. They said they're on Amazon now, right? And it's just in time for the holiday season. And also, hey, if you're not already connected with me, make sure you do that too. I don't know why you're not. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all the places. You'll find those links below as well. And that's because I know you don't want to miss out on any future episodes because we come back each and every week. So until I see you back next week, because I know I will, stay happy, stay healthy.